So any weekend that is a racing weekend is a really special weekend. And this one is indeed special because we are at the Buddh International Circuit, India's racing arena, and we're taking part in the Volkswagen Ameo Cup. Now, there's been a bit of a debate over the last couple of years in India about whether racing is an actual sport. Well, it requires a great deal of skill and talent. It requires you to be fit. After all, an F1 driver loses up to 3 or sometimes over 3 kilos in a single race. It requires a hell of a lot of focus and determination. It requires the time, effort, and money to be able to practice and make your way up the ranks to go pro. So, sounds a hell of a lot like a sport to me. But before we get wrangled into a debate, let's go check out the car and talk to the man who puts this show on the road. So we're here with Sirish Vissa, the head of Motorsport India. Sirish, thank you for having us.
My pleasure.
And putting me in the driver's seat, that's a very brave move on your part. So tell us a little bit about the Ameo Cup.
The Ameo Cup, as you know, is the current generation of our long line of one-make championships.
Yeah.
This is the second year for us. Starts off life as a regular Ameo body shell from the plant, and we then have our tweaks, of course, to make it a lot more in terms of power, in terms of handling, and of course safety.
So speaking of power, let's take a look at what's under the hood and see just how you guys tweak this. So tell us a little bit about the engine.
The first thing is that the heart of the Ameo filled with the 1.8 litre TSI from the Polo GTI, and not only is it the bigger engine, but we've also got the engine tweaked. So in the Polo GTI it was about 189 horsepower. With this we are looking at close to 205 horsepower, and this is then also mated to a 6-speed racing sequential gearbox. Of course we've got the paddles just because designed to be able to cater to complete novices as well as experienced drivers. So we need to have all the safeties in place, which is why we went with the paddles instead of a manual gear lever.
And would you like to see other manufacturers coming into the sport to compete with you guys? Because
definitely, I cannot emphasize that enough, because ultimately whatever we are doing with the one-make championship, it's at one level. But for motorsport to become a more viable marketing platform for all of us, we need to be competing against one another. We need to then sort of engage the brand loyalties of the audience, of the spectators in to make this a much bigger sport. And yes, I would love to see all of our competitors involved, because I think that's when we can not only make motorsport much better, we can also then make the whole entertainment value of it much better.
Well, thank you once again for having us, and I'm looking forward to getting out there.
Good luck.
Thank you. So, quick weekend roundup. Qualified in third yesterday. I would have preferred to have been maybe a little bit higher up, a couple of more tenths of a second faster, but I'll take it. First race was completely chaotic. There were safety cars, there were red flags, there were accidents, there were guys flipping 3 times over. It was restarted and then safety car again, so it was completely chaotic. In the midst of it all, my shoe even came apart. So you know that there was chaos inside the car, outside the works. But managed to stick my nose out in front and managed to stay there amidst the chaos. Despite the chaos, we finished in P1. But while I have you, in between race 1 and race 2, we're in a bit of a break. Race 2 starts in a couple of hours time, and it's a reverse grid. So what that means is that the top 8 start in reverse order. So I finished first, I'm going to start race 2 in 8th. While I have you in the car, I want to show you some of the details in this phenomenal race car. It's really, really well prepared. There's a roll cage, of course, and the minute you put the roll cage is for safety. But the minute you put a roll cage into a car, it gives you additional stiffness, it gives you better handling, it gives you better rigidity, and it really gives you a race car feel. I'm sitting facing a small 3-spoke steering wheel with paddles right behind me. The gearbox is phenomenal. It's a racing gearbox and it just bangs through the gears. There's a fire extinguisher system. So there's a fire extinguisher in the back. This arms the system, and then there are nozzles at various points in the car. And if there's a fire, you press this red button. If there isn't a fire, you want to stay as far away from that as possible. So it's nicely highlighted and it's separate. Don't touch that if there's no problem. So you're strapped in really tight so that if anything happens in the event of an accident, we had one car which flipped 3 times. The driver got out, no problem, because you are one with the car. Then you can't move your head because you've got a Hans device. We'll show you that in a second. So I can't even move my head that much. There's a net on this side, so it's quite claustrophobic, really, really warm when you're in the race car, sitting in the sun at 40 degrees. But very comfortable place to be, and you are really at one when you're strapped into the race car, and it is a true cockpit.
In the second race, I managed a good start and made up some places. In attempting to overtake another competitor, I got too eager. I got alongside, smelled blood, and we touched. I did apologize for my part, but what can I say? Sometimes the red mist of racing clouds your judgment and the adrenaline gets the better of you. Within the span of just a couple of hours, I had experienced the highs and lows of racing. It's a true roller coaster after all, on and off track. I was happy for the win, of course, but disappointed with the incident in the second race. The grey hair on my beard had allowed me to walk away with the trophy against much younger competition in race 1, but couldn't prevent me from the incident in race 2. Still more to learn, I suppose.